السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. عن أبي سعيد الخدري أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من شغله القرآن عن ذكري ومسألتي أعطيته أفضل ما أعطي السائلين. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he mentioned from Abu Sa'id Khudri radiyallahu anhu, that whosoever is too busy with the Qur'an for remembering me and asking me, then I shall give him more than what I give to those who ask. So today, inshallah, we will start with some tips for students. We have done tips for parents whose children or child is in Hafidh class. We have also done some tips for teachers and advice for teachers. And now, inshallah, we will start with tips for students. Any journey we embark on, any project, especially for the deen, intention is key. Not only at the beginning, but throughout. In the middle, especially with Hifdh, it's a long journey, usually takes years, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes. So we need to keep renewing our intentions. When one starts such a lofty undertaking task, Shaitan will be fast on our heels to try and stop them. And he usually attacks one's intention. And it's usually one of two forms. It might be through trying to corrupt the intention, or even more underhanded, it might be by making them believe that their intention is not correct, and therefore you should stop until you fix that intention. So remember, if you're concerned about your intention, never stop doing the good deed, no. Keep an eye on your intention and you just purify it and rectify it, but you don't stop any good deed. I once read in a book How to Memorize the Qur'an by Sheikh Muhammad al-Habash. He said 3 considerations are important in memorizing the Holy Qur'an. The first one is sincerity. And he reminds us that the Qur'an is Allah's word. And trying to memorize it for fame, to win a contest or a competition, or to lead Taraweeh in your local masjid as well. These are the correct intentions. It shouldn't be for people. It's void of benefit. And he goes on to say, if one is striving to memorize the Qur'an and he or she is oriented towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he or she will find his or her ability to memorize the Qur'an stronger and will find more success. It's also important, like I mentioned yesterday, for the teachers is to rectify the tajweed. So a student should know whether their tajweed is up to scratch. Otherwise, correct the tajweed. It's very important. Once you start, it gets very hard to rectify it as students generally get older as well. Try and find a good teacher, which I mentioned yesterday, mainly for parents. And it's important to have consistency. Attendance of your class, madrasa is important. And try and have a routine and a timetable. So I mentioned early morning start is good. Qur'an mentions وَقُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ إِنَّ قُرْآنَ الْفَجْرِ كَانَ مَشْهُودًا. The recitation at Fajr. Verily, the recitation at dawn is indeed witnessed. So the nice thing about this time, other than it being the time specified in the Qur'an, is that it's usually a time of little distraction. School and work have not yet started, and other children, your siblings, may still be sleeping. Some people do like to do end of the day before bed. This works for them because it's a ritual before retiring for the night. Maybe 15-20 minutes at night to revise the sabak or go over the week sabak. Of course, you can figure out what works best for you and try and stick with it. There's no harm trialing and testing whether morning or nighttime works best. Try yourself to stay in a state of purity, tahara. The words of Allah are pure and can only be held in a pure heart. So guard your senses, your eyes, your ears, so your heart is not filled with dirt and grime of the dunya and sins. but preserve that heart for Allah's beautiful words. Don't allow your eyes to see haram, gazing at the opposite gender, films, TikTok and Snapchat, very common with the young generation, but often filled with music, women, dancing. So these images will then float through your head, and you're trying to put light in a darkened heart. Don't let poisonous words compete with the flowing language of the Qur'an. Safeguard your tongue from lying, backbiting, gossip, slandering and swearing. Also, it's important to have a good diet for students. Plenty of vegetables and fruits. Dry fruit is usually good. Nuts, almonds, pistachios. Have a lot of milk. Using all that brain power burns up calories, so make sure you get enough of them, and they're healthy calories. Using the miswak, a good perfume before you start the Qur'an. Everybody loses patience. Everybody loses patience at some point. Whether you're becoming a Hafidh al-Qur'an, a doctor or a dentist or a scientist, anything you do has struggle, disappointment, hard work. And becoming a Hafidh of the Qur'an is also full of struggle, disappointment and hard work. You need to listen to talks and lectures and read stories of faith, hope and commitment, starting with stories in the Qur'an and in the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So patience is very important. Some people find Surah Baqarah the hardest, some people find Surah Baqarah easy, and others find the last juz 28, 29, 30 the hardest, even though by that time they're fully into routine. So consistency is more important than the amount. Don't worry about the amount. And it's good to have a target, but it doesn't mean you have to be restricted to it. One other important tool is recite what you can in Salah. Now, this might not be possible for young children who are in school because of their routine. And obviously, if you're going to recite long verses and surahs in Salah, it will take time. So do it on a weekend, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, whenever you can. Do it in your holidays, certainly in your holidays, your half term, your Christmas, Easter holidays. It doesn't have to be all the juz that you've done. It could be just juz amma, just Surah Baqarah. But definitely it's important to recite what you can in Salah, so you know how well you know it. Many people I know have benefited from this. Tie up knowledge with writing. Many people find it useful to write down, if not every sabak, new lesson, the hard sabaks, the hard chapters, write it down. This does help some people with memorizing. Listening, in this day and age, mashallah, we have CDs, we have YouTube, which when we were memorizing Qur'an, almost 30 years ago, we didn't have those apps and as much technology. So listening, again, if you can do it daily of the sabak, the new lesson, or end of the week, whatever you've memorized, listen to it on YouTube, put it in CDs in the car with your mum and dad. It's a good idea to practice what you've memorized at the same speed that you will be reciting. Sometimes when people are practicing, they read so quickly, and then when you go to the teacher, obviously teachers want it with perfected tajweed and slow, and it's difficult. So don't learn. I've seen this in my own class. People are in fifth gear when learning, and I always tell them to slow down because I know I won't accept that as a teacher. Keep one Qur'an as well throughout. Look after it. And also try, when attending class, try and attend on time, try and be punctual. Also, I mentioned about sins, but if you do sin, do tawbah, repeatedly do tawbah, istighfar, try and recite fixed amount, 10, 20, 30 times of istighfar, durood, and most of all important is dua. Dua is the brain of all our worship. This is no different from memorizing the Qur'an. Dua humbles us and reminds us that in the end it is Allah who opens the door and allows us to do khair. Many of my teachers say tahajjud, if you can wake up and pray at night, consider it an invitation from Allah to stand before Him. Not everybody is blessed with this opportunity. So I mentioned earlier Sheikh Muhammad Al-Habash, that he mentioned the 3 points. One was about sincerity and also internal motivation. So this is the second one, and he states that although the promise of rewards and prizes is acceptable, if that is the only driving force, then when the gifts or the desires for those gifts is gone, the motivation will also go. So it's especially important for children, as they might not be able to conceptualize the delayed rewards in heaven. So in the beginning, they may need external motivation in the forms of gifts. And it's a positive experience for them. So there's no harm in that. We celebrate many different things. We should also celebrate the Qur'an. Like I said, if it's every month, every juz they finish, a couple of pounds, doesn't harm anybody. Try and keep minimal distractions. So this is particularly in the 21st century, those memorizing the Qur'an, tablets, gadgets, iPads. You can spend hours on that. You can spend those hours memorizing the Qur'an. Even in your free time, try and do something linked to the Qur'an. So these are some tips for students, inshallah. In the next few videos, we will go through how to actually learn and memorize as well. But inshallah, this will motivate you. Never give up. Those who have started the journey, be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has blessed you, and it's a great blessing to have the Qur'an in your chest. We mentioned maybe in one of the other videos, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ. The best of you is those who learn the Qur'an and teach it. So you are the best of Allah's creation, the best of the ummah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all steadfastness and make it easy for us to memorize and retain the Qur'an. Ameen. Subhanallah bihamdi. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.